icy waters of the Bering Sea are home to one of the most dangerous and lucrative industries on the planet: crab fishing. Each year, brave fishermen set sail in search of the elusive king crab, a prized catch that commands top dollar in seafood markets around the world. But this isn't your typical fishing trip. It's a battle against nature's fiercest forces. With towering waves, freezing temperatures, and the constant threat of disaster, crab fishing is not for the faint of heart. From the massive ice-crusted vessels to the cutting-edge technology used to haul in thousands of crabs at a time, the world of crab fishing is a high-stakes adventure where survival and success go hand in hand. Welcome to the wild, unpredictable world of Alaska's crab fisheries, where danger meets opportunity on every haul. Most fishing is done seasonally. The reason for this is that fishermen want to catch fish when they stand to lose the least amount of money and make the most amount of profit, which makes sense. Fish and marine life populations are often based on breeding seasons and the climate. What this means is that fishermen are often ready to catch fish after a certain amount of time after the breeding season is over, so that they can catch fully grown fish with more meat to sell. And with this greater amount of fish comes a greater profit. Crabs are also seasonal animals, meaning that most crabfish reach full maturity between October and January. This means that in these months, they have the most meat on their bones. The window for catching these crabs is limited. The reason for this is that the earlier you can hop on the season, the more crabs you can catch. This is because crab fishing is a highly competitive market where the amount of crabs available can shift fairly quickly based on how much fishing is going on. You'd think that catching crabs would be just like catching a normal fish. Just throw a net down, scrap the ocean a little, and voila, dinner is served. It's a little more complicated than that. Think about it. What's the point of a net if crabs don't swim? Crabs are known to hide in small spaces and go for easy prey sitting on the bottom of the ocean floor. Another reason is that crabs, especially king crabs, are large and strong. A single king crab can weigh up to 24 pounds with legs spanning 6 feet. On top of that, crabs have surprisingly well-developed muscles, and with their pincers, it is more than possible for them to break through the nets. Another issue with using nets for crabs is that nets are big and they don't have any discussion. This means that they will catch pretty much everything. This is great for general fishing vessels. However, this can be a pain for crab fishermen because they then need to sort through all that fish. This isn't too much of an issue because you could sell the fish. However, the bigger issue with nets is that they can hurt the crabs. This isn't great because it can mean a few things. If the net were to capture undersized crabs, then they couldn't sell them or release them so that they could grow big and then be sold later. Additionally, nets cause a lot of damage to ecosystems, and on top of that, damaged king crabs sell for less because it lowers the meat yield and raises concerns for quality with buyers. This is because buyers, especially in the seafood industry, want big, healthy crabs so that they can get more meat and so that they can have a better presentation for their customers. Because of these concerns, fishermen use large steel traps called pots to catch king crabs. These pots are baited with fish and lowered to the ocean floor. The traps are designed to be heavy and durable to withstand the freezing conditions. The pots are typically stacked on boats, and the fishermen haul them in with cranes and winches. These are heavy-duty traps. They are tough, so crabs can't break out. They don't hurt the crab. They are designed to trick crabs into traps, and they make storage and transport easy and scalable. The long short of this is that the equipment that they use for crab fishing is highly optimized for the bodies, behavior, strength, and needs of a crab, which makes them perfect for use in crab fishing. One of the biggest fishing grounds for king crab fishing in the icy waters of the Bering Sea. The Bering Sea is known for being one of the most unstable and unpredictable seas in the world, with unpredictable storms and freezing temperatures. The surface water alone is known to be -2 degrees Celsius to 2 degrees Celsius. is especially true in the months between December and March. Because of this, a common issue that plagues crab fishing vessels is the constant need to worry about and account for hypothermia conditions. This is in addition to concerns of capsizing, ship damage, and general peril. Furthermore, the work of fishing, handling, and maintaining the vessel results in a lot of risk for fishermen. The reason for this is that because the equipment is so large and dangerous, and because crabs are so large and dangerous, there is a very high likelihood that any mistake can result in costly accidents, which can cause lifelong physical trauma and extensive costs for the fishing company. There are several rules and regulations, along with common practices that most fishermen need to follow. Often, they need to be careful to release any exotic or endangered marine life they find, and they should always try to send female or undersized fish back into their environments so as not to affect populations in the long run. These practices are often enforced by law. These laws and practices also apply to crab fishermen. The crab population, as of recent years, has been in sharp decline, so these regulations have been in greater effect for the industry. There's more to this, but I'll go over the how and why of why these populations are declining later in the video. Unlike fish, crabs have shells and other extremities, which means that it's important to take extra care to sell them when they are being sold to customers. Because of this, once the crabs are caught, they are often taken to shoreside processing plants where they are cooked, cleaned, and packed for shipping. King crabs are usually sold for their leg meat and are thought of as a delicacy, so you'll often find them on the menus of luxury restaurants and specialty markets. Alaska is one of the world's largest producers and suppliers of king crab fishing. Historically speaking, Alaska used to supply about 70% to 80% of the world's red king crab during its peak in the 1980s. However, the good times never last. In recent years, Alaska's share has dropped to around 10 to 15% due to population declines and fishing restrictions. I'll get into the details of that later. These days, Russia supplies about 60 to 70% of the world's total king crab. In effect, they have usurped the position of crab king from Alaska, becoming the biggest producer of red and blue king crabs in the US, China, South Korea, and Japan. However, despite the troubles that the king crab industry of Alaska has faced, the king crab fishery is still a significant part of Alaska's economy, generating millions of dollars annually. In 2024, the value of the Alaskan crab industry was over $200 million. Additionally, the king crab industry of Alaska hit its peak during the 1980s, when they were able to produce roughly 130 million pounds of a king crab. The result of this was that they were able to produce $200 million when accounting for inflation. They made $750 million in today's money. There are three main types of king crab caught in Alaska. Red king crabs, blue king crabs, and golden king crabs are also known as brown king crabs. Each of these crab types has their biological traits, taste profiles, and market values. Starting with the red king crab. It's known for being the most prized variety of king crab due to its size and flavor. They can grow up to 24 pounds and span over 5 feet, which makes them quite the delight at parties. This, along with their brilliant red shell, makes them instantly eye-catching in terms of their presentation. This variety of king crab is known to love colder waters and sandy seabeds. The most important part about any crab is how it tastes. The red king crab is known for its flavor, described as being sweet and tender, buttery, rich, and ever so slightly salty. It makes for a sought-after for high-end dining. Its large, meaty legs have a soft and delicate texture, which most people are sure to adore. This makes it a highly sought-after ingredient in cooking because of its rich flavor and because it pairs well with many other dishes. Despite red crabs being the most sought after, there is the much less beloved but still sought after on the market. It's smaller than the red king crab, but still quite large, weighing in at around 18 pounds. That's only 7 pounds smaller than the red crab. They are known to live in deeper and colder waters, often hanging around the islands of St. Matthew and Pribilof Islands because of these habitations. They are less common due to their smaller and more scattered population. And in terms of taste, it's like red king crab, but less so. Less sweet, firmer, denser, saltier, many still like it. Blue crab is considered to be high-quality meat. However, that comes with the caveat that it's not quite as delicate as red king crab. Because blue king crab is less common and has less meat and a less appealing flavor to most consumers, the meat tends to be rarer and cheaper because most fishing vessels don't try to hunt blue crabs that often. Because of their reputation as being cheaper and less decadent than red crab, you'll often find blue crab not being sold in luxury restaurants, often finding them in Asian markets instead. Last but not least, there is a gold crab. If there was a word to describe it, it would be cheap. These crabs are the smallest variety of king crab. However, they are the most abundant variety of king crab, which makes them the most stable option for fisheries. However, golden crabs are generally disliked because they are considered to be less sweet, stringier, and more fibrous. Because of this, they are the least expensive of the three, and because of this, it is common to see them being used at buffets, casual seafood restaurants, and wholesale markets. In summary, the thing you need to know about king crabs is that red crabs are the best, but they are expensive. Blue crabs are rarer than red crabs, however. They are decently priced and still taste pretty good. However, golden crabs are super common and super cheap, which makes them the best bet for people who want to try crab without the expensive cost of red or blue crab. However, before you write golden crab off as being mediocre or not as good, well, you are correct. However, because golden crabs are the best choice for most consumers, and since they are so abundant, they are almost single-handedly keeping the king crab market alive because their populations are so large and sustainable. I mentioned earlier in the video how crab fishing is a highly regulated industry due to the concerns about king crab populations and the need to keep them sustained. The industry follows a quote-based system and operates under the oversight of several government bodies, including the National Marine Fisheries Service, the NMFS for short, and the Alaskan Department of Fish and Game, or ADF&G. Before 2005, the crab fishing industry operated on a free-for-all mindset, which is to say, you go out there and you catch as many crabs as you can fit on your boat. This resulted in a derby-style market where fishing boats raced each other to catch crabs, which resulted in dangerous conditions and overfishing. In 2005, the industry switched to the Crab Rationalization Program. This introduced individual fishing quotas. What this meant for fishermen was that they couldn't fish as many crabs as they wanted because there was a maximum limit to how many crabs they were allowed to keep. The benefit was that the government was able to put a lid on the fishing of crabs, and this forced fishing vessels to slow down the process, making it safer and more sustainable. In addition to the individual fishing quotas, the fishing of crabs is further restricted by what is known as the total allowable catch. This is a limit on the amount of crabs that the industry is allowed to catch. The exact total allowable catch is calculated by scientists who survey and study crab populations to estimate how many of the population can be safely removed without causing long-term issues with sustainability. Furthermore, there are regulations on the size, sex, and species of crab that fishermen are allowed to catch. Female crabs are not allowed to be fished. The minimum size of a crab is 6.5 inches across the carapace, and only the 3 previously discussed species are allowed to be fished, any other species are strictly forbidden. The reason for these restrictions is to ensure that reproduction is possible in the ecosystem and that all the small crabs have the time to grow and reproduce such that they are more valuable and have had time to fertilize any females. The seasons where crab fishing are legal are also limited, only really allowing for fishing between the months of October and early January. This short season means that most the fishing and supply of crab fishing is restricted. In addition to the limited length of the fishing season, fishermen are required to use large steel pots, the reasons for which I explained before. However, the most important reason is to maintain safety and protect the ecosystem. Additionally, we will find that these pots have biodegradable escape panels, which are required so that lost pots don't turn into ghost pots that sit at the bottom of the ocean, waiting to trap innocent marine life inside itself. All fishing trips are now required to be accompanied by government officials who are responsible for making sure that no crabs are illegally fished or that no quotas or regulations are violated. As stated earlier, the king crab population in Alaska has been in serious decline, leading to fishery closures, economic hardship, and major concerns about sustainability. You might be thinking, it's not as bad as they say it is, right? However, the 2021, 2022, and 2023 seasons were closed due to low populations. The Bering Sea snow crab fishery closed down after experiencing a catastrophic 90% population collapse, leading to the 2 seasons being closed. And we even saw the ecosystems of the blue and golden king crabs change. This is due to several factors. We'll get into those, but as of now, all you need to know is that due to these major declines in the industry and ecosystems, we are seeing a slow and steady collapse of the market as more and more government efforts are made to make sure that the population is sustained. What's causing these declines? The water in the Bering Sea is getting warmer, which increases the crab's metabolism, making them hungrier quickly. This heat makes the crabs weaker, making them more vulnerable to disease and predation, and there has been a loss of ice, which reduces the number of cold pools of water that crabs rely on for shelter. This is all the result of climate changes and global warming. These changing conditions are making the habitats of these crabs harder for them to live. This has resulted in billions of crabs going missing due to heat, stress, and starvation, while other crabs relocate to colder climates. Additionally, this crisis is made worse due to the previous free-for-all mentality of the king crab fishery. Overfishing has caused an immensely reduced number of breeding-age crabs. This has resulted in a population crisis with the crabs. There are efforts to try and rectify this using the quota system. However, the recovery has been slow, and the concern the previous catch limits were too high is starting to re-emerge as people worry that the crab populations might not rebound as desired. Furthermore, the predators of the king crab, the Pacific cod, have seen a rise in their population. This isn't uncommon due to the nature of the predator-prey cycle, however. What we found was that in addition to that cycle, we have an issue where the rising temperature means that the conditions in the Bering Sea are getting better for them to reproduce in. This makes them healthier, increases fecundity, and makes their population explode. This results in a major issue where the boom in cod populations results in the biggest predator of baby crabs becoming more dangerous, resulting in more predation on the crabs. Because of this, the crab population is being reduced. Because the fishing season for crab fishing is so short, we find that the majority of crab fishing vessels are staffed using seasonal workers. This means that everything from factory workers to fishermen are hired for a few months before being let go. Because of this, the labor demands for seasonal work are very high, because there is a limited amount of seasonal workers to go around who are also willing to work with such dangerous animals on top of the dangerous conditions of the Bering Sea. So what we see is a market where the labor demands are high, while the supply of labor is limited. This results in better pay and compensation from the industry, due to the risk and the demand. Fishing industries are often vital to local economies on the coast and around sources of water like rivers and lakes. Coastal communities in Alaska, such as Dutch Harbor and Kodiak, are no exception. They are highly dependent on the yield of crabs and other marine life. Because of that, they are hit the hardest by the loss of work and income from the regulation and quotas. But down on crab fishing. Because crab fishing requires a lot of special equipment and adaptations for their environment and the marine animals they are setting out to catch. These vessels are called crabbers. They are dedicated crab fishing vessels, primarily used for crabbing. They are built to withstand severe weather and rough seas, typical of the Bering Sea, where waves can reach up to 40 feet in height. Crabbers are large, robust, and highly specialized ships that are usually 60 to 120 feet in length, though some are even larger. Specific features of most crabbers include the following: a high freeboard. These vessels have tall sides to prevent flooding onto the deck during storms. Additionally, these ships had hydraulic stabilizers or flaps that helped reduce the roll of the ship in high waves. This ensures a stable platform for crabbing operations. They also have large, wide, and open decks that are crucial for handling and sorting through the massive amounts of crabs they work with. This open-air design also makes it easier to unload crabs after they are caught. These vessels are also equipped with powerful hydraulic winches and crane systems. These cranes are often mounted on the ship's bow or stern for easy access. They also have cold storage to help keep the crabs until they can be processed and transported for sale. In conclusion, the world of king crab fishing is a complex interplay of risk, reward, and regulation. From the icy perils of the Bering Sea to the delicate dance of supply and demand, this industry faces significant challenges. Declining crab populations due to climate change and past overfishing practices necessitate careful management and stricter quotas. While the allure of succulent king crab meat continues to drive the market, the future of this industry hinges on finding a sustainable balance between economic viability and ecological preservation. The dedication and resilience of the fishermen, coupled with ongoing scientific research and adaptive management strategies, will ultimately determine whether this unique and challenging way of life can endure for generations to come.